What's up everybody, my name is Chris and today we are talking about the T.Bone SC140, which is a very interesting microphone with a couple capabilities built in, a kidney capsule, and yeah, let's talk about it. A quick disclaimer before we jump into this video. None of the companies mentioned in this video or in the videos regarding this series are sponsoring any of this. All of these tests are done because I'm looking for the perfect microphone to put overhead into my YouTube studio and also use in other kind of environments. For the most part, however, I'm looking for something that does reject the echo and room reverberance very well, does not have a strong noise floor, and of course, I also am looking to upgrade my sound. I'm not going to cover any instrument recording with these microphones, since that is not what I'm doing. I usually only record pretty much always my voice, as well as sometimes other people's voices. Now I also want you to know the environment that I'm doing all of these tests in, and that basically is my YouTube studio. As you can see on the screen, it's a fairly large room, which has a lot of reverberance and echo. I've tried treating this room with the rugs on the floor, as well as this kind of like sound blanket curtain that is almost separating the room into two halves. This is what you get, and this is the environment that I'm filming with. I do think that this is kind of perfect because it is an imperfect environment, and to make those tests in exactly this environment I think makes a lot of sense, because not everybody can fully treat their room and have the perfect environment. Additionally, I also think that it's important to mention that all of the recordings are done with the Zoom F6, the 32-bit float wave file recording in 48 kHz. And last but not least, the normalization of this video as well as the audio tests is done to -16 LKFS, which is basically the same as LUFS. This is done with loudness control in Isotopes RX8, and you can see the settings that I used on the screen. Now that we have all that covered, let's jump into the video. Now this is one more video in the series of comparing pencil type microphones with cardioid or hypercardioid pickup patterns for voice dialogue or in-studio mounting for overhead voice dialogue recording. In this test here we have the T.Bone SC140, but in other videos I also compare the Behringer C2, the newer NW140 and the Octava MK012. All of these are very interesting microphones with different price points, whereas the Behringer C2 is the cheapest one and the Octava being the most expensive. Now in this video I'm specifically talking about the T.Bone, but if you want to know anything about the other microphones, you can find a link in the description, which is a playlist where you will find all the other reviews and also my final review where I compare them all against each other, and I will let you know which one I'm going to be keeping. Now, before we dive into this microphone, there is something to note, and that regards mostly the American viewers of this channel. The company behind T.Bone is actually called Thomann, and Thomann basically is a music store in Germany, which is kind of close to where I grew up. And that's how I came to know them. Now they have this in-house brand which is called T.Bone, and there they make all kinds of different instruments, equipment, as well as microphones like the one that we have here. It may be difficult to get this in the US, but for European customers it is very easy to purchase those products. This video is not sponsored by this company, as I've mentioned in the beginning of this video, but I have partner links in the description below, which are affiliate links, so I get a small commission for qualifying purchases. Now let's jump into the box and see what it comes with. Even before we open this up, this is a similar case to the newer NW410, and you can see that it is really well made and protects your microphone very well. Considering that the microphone itself costs around 100 euros, this is already a nice thing to have. Then we have a stereo mounting bracket. That is because this type of microphone is also commonly used for stereo recording. We obviously have two microphone capsules, but there's also one set available where you can just get one of those. You also have one foam windscreen for each microphone, and also these microphone holders, which are kind of like a spider holder and with kind of like bungee suspending the microphone in mid-air so that you don't have as much of the kind of like the use or the other reverberances that can come up on the holder of a microphone. But now let's take a deeper look at the microphone itself. Now it's kind of interesting that in this series, no matter the price point, the build quality overall feels really well because it's always a metal body, which is kind of good. Then we have in this case also the connectors, high quality, I can't say anything against that. And then we have the capsule, and unscrewing this, even though there are no replacement capsules, we have the inside here, which shows you how the connection works. There's a little spring mechanism inside here, which kind of presses against the contact in the other side, and it just looks like it is a usual capsule. I would also probably be careful with screwing this on and off. Again, there are no replacement capsules for this, or at least not as of right now, as I know about any. But I would be careful because those can be damaged if you are not careful. With this microphone, there are actually multiple features built into the microphone that you can switch between. You can have a -10 dB pad and a -20 dB pad, so you can choose between those. And then additionally, you can also use a high-pass filter at 75 or 150 Hertz. These are plastic knobs and they really nicely click into place where they're supposed to be. Interesting here, specifically comparing this with the Behringer C2, is that you can actually use both of these modes independently. So you can use a -10 dB pad and also the low cut filter at 150 Hertz and not have to choose between either one of them. So you can use them in combination with each other, which is not possible on the Behringer C2. Now this microphone comes with a capsule that has a cardioid pickup pattern, which is also called a kidney pickup pattern on the website. There are no further attachments in the box, all the features are built in and with those switches, which is probably a good thing because that way you don't have to screw anything on this threading up here and you can just continue using it the way it is. This microphone is advertised with a frequency response of 20 all the way to 20,000 Hertz. It has a sensitivity of -38 dB and a self noise of 9.2 decibels. Then we have the maximum sound pressure of 136 decibels and a output impedance of 220 ohms. Of course, this also needs phantom power and that's specified with 48 volts. Then we have the diameter with 18 millimeters, the length with 145 millimeters, and one microphone with its capsule weighs in at 94 grams. As you've already seen, the whole kit comes in a very nice aluminum box. There are two microphone bodies with one capsule each, which is a cardioid pickup pattern. Then there are two spider holders for the microphones individually, two little foam balls for pop filtering, and also the stereo mounting bracket. The whole kit costs around 97 euros as of recording this, but you can also choose to just purchase one microphone, one spider, one foam ball, and a little bit of an aluminum case for 48 euros. Now my thoughts about the kit as well as the build of the T.Bone SC140, it is a really interestingly made microphone. With all the features built in, it is definitely the most feature-rich microphone, and I would say this makes it very versatile. Not having multiple capsules, however, is something that I would consider a little bit of a downside because the hypercardioid and cardioid pickup pattern can be really interesting in different environments, and of course there's also the omnidirectional microphone that could be interesting here as well. However, the more interesting part about that is how does this microphone actually perform in terms of sound for its price comparing it to those other microphones. In terms of the build quality, there's not really anything I can say about those microphones. All of them are metal bodies and that's not different with this. The knobs here or the switches are plastic and kind of finicky, but they click into place really nicely. So that's a good thing. In terms of what you get in the box, this is also a very interesting sit, specifically because of this spider holder where you can put in the microphone like so. Now this way the microphone is actually suspended in mid-air and you actually have replacement bungees as well. So when you use this, for example, in an overhead rig or specifically in a boom pole situation where you're actually handling the microphone and you're moving it around, this may actually reduce most of the handling noises and you don't have to specifically purchase this extra, which you might have to do for those other microphones in this series. And that way I would say this is the most feature-rich kit, coming with those switches as well as this nice holder, not considering the different capsules because there are other kits that give you more versatility in that regard. But now with all the technicalities out of the way, it's time to listen in for some samples. And of course you already have been listening to this microphone all the way throughout this video, except for the little message at the beginning. Of course I will also include more samples at the very end of this video, so you can also jump around there with those chapter markers that I'm providing in the description below. But now let's jump into a couple of those samples to get to know how this performs with different distances as well as the side and rear rejection. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Now, it's not really surprising that with the price going up and with this being the third most expensive microphone in the comparison series, also the sound gets better. Also, it's kind of expected that a company that is focused on selling music-related products like Thomann, and with that the in-house brand that makes this microphone called T.Bone, also make good music equipment. In terms of sound, most of the decision really has to be made by yourself and how you like a microphone. With microphones, I think the only good choice is trying them out yourself, be that in a store, with a friend, or any other way. Now, I can only tell you about my experience with this microphone. And a couple of things that I noticed are that the plosives are relatively strong, so that they are actually being picked up quite a lot on the proximity test. Looking at the distance test, I noticed that it's losing a lot of volume very quickly. And that is really interesting comparing it to the newer as well as the Behringer C2, because with the newer, I thought that cardioid capsules are the ones that don't lose as much of the volume with more distance, but the hypercardioid does that a lot. So that was kind of like a finding between the first two videos of this series. But here we have a cardioid pickup pattern capsule that almost works identical to the hypercardioid of the Behringer C2, at least in the regard of in the front of the microphone and using it with more distance. Now, I would say this microphone is very usable up to 1 meter in distance, and also in combination with an audio recorder that has very low noise AD converters. That's really important because with that type of setup, you will have to bring up the gain specifically in voice dialogue situations. Now, if you have different needs, for example, recording a choir or anything that is louder than just one person speaking, you might even get away with longer distances as well. Now, looking at the side and rear rejection, I would say that this microphone rejects everything really nicely. Coming in from the side, very close to the microphone, it almost sounds like you're about a meter away from it, and going from the back of the microphone with 30 centimeters of distance, it basically sounds like you're 2 or 3 meters away, which is really good in that regard and makes this a very usable microphone for scenarios where you want to basically hone in on something that is in front of the microphone but not that far away. For recording something more narrow and further away from a microphone, you might have to look at the shotgun microphones on the market or the supercardioid capsules. Now, of course, I also have the noise floor recording here, which I'm going to share with you in 0 dB after normalization to -16 LKFS, as well as boost that to 15 dB. So let's listen in on that. Now, just listening to that, it might not give you all the information that you want, and it's more interesting to wait for the comparison video of all 4 microphones to hear how all of those compare against each other. However, what I have to say about this noise floor is that it does not sound as electronic as most others, and it actually is one of the cleanest noise floors of the bunch. So with price, you also step up in quality there, and the noise floor of this here, I would say, is the one that sounds the most natural and does not intrude in any electronic kind of sounding way. So that is just my personal opinion, so you can share yours in the comment section down below if you have other thoughts, but there we are. Now, my overall thoughts on this microphone, it is really a good value microphone, and I would even say from the cheaper microphones, this might come out to be the best choice for most people, especially if you can afford up to that price point, of course, of around 100 euros. Considering that you get 2 microphones for the price of 100 euros, which basically makes 1 microphone for 50 euros, this really is a good dang sounding microphone. It has a nice response all throughout, specifically comparing it to the newer, which would be the next lower price, and with the US, the newer actually is comparable in price to this microphone, or it would be if you can get this one here in the US. So that's maybe the most downside of this microphone, that it is maybe hard to get in the US, or at least I haven't found a way to get it there unless you can get it from Thomann themselves, also shipped to the US and taxes and import and all that kind of stuff. But I would say this is a really, really good sounding microphone for this price bracket and for this use case. The low noise floor is really interesting, and also how it sounds with that. I found it really workable, and also something that I would more enjoy working with than some of the other noise floors that I've compared here. Now, in terms of versatility, this also is a kit that gives you more than you might ask for. The -10 and -20 dB pads, the 75 and 150 Hz low-cut filters, everything like that gives you a nice package to work with. And not to forget the really nice case as well as the spider mounting, which helps you reduce the rumbles when using and hand-holding this type of microphone. Now I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this microphone, comparing it to all the other microphones in that final video of the series, where I'm going to be comparing all 4 of the microphones that I've mentioned before and also talk about which one I will be keeping. Now I know this is a company that's based in Europe and it may not be as easy for you to get if you are based in the US, and I know that a lot of you are based in the US based on my YouTube analytics. But maybe there's an alternative on the market that is similar to this microphone, and you could suggest that in the comment section down below so that I may include this information in the description for other people to find as well. Now let's jump into the outro, and don't forget, at the very end of this video there are all the test recordings of this microphone in its different settings as well as different distances and use cases. So be sure to check those out as well, and of course you can also jump around between them with the chapter markers in the description down below. Now that is all the information I have for you today about the T.Bone SC140. If you have any questions, leave those in the comment section down below. If this video was helpful for you, please give this video a thumbs up so that other people may find this information as well. That helps out a lot for the YouTube algorithm. Also, you can subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming videos that I have in this series, and also about other topics coming up. Now I hope you have an amazing day, choose your microphone wisely, and I will see you in the next one, which will be about the Octava MK012. Ciao ciao! Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59. Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness ever ready to flow if you will keep digging. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 7.59.